Hey there, Reese from the Point Music Podcast again with another special episode. This week's guest is Kylie Cobb from Kitty Kitty Bang Bang PR. So we talk all things about music PR, the ins and outs of it, what to do, why you should use a publicist, and sometimes why you should be doing something on your own. Talk about the Gold Coast Music Awards, and then we touch on a little bit more of a serious matter, which we'll find out when you get through the episode. So I hope you enjoy this one. Ladies and gentlemen and people of all types, Kylie Cobb. And we are rolling. Kylie Cobb, because you got many B's in your last name. What's with the extra B in the last name? Was that absolutely necessary?
It'd be naked without it, you know?
Yeah, I know. It feels a bit weird. How
and
are
lots
you?
of K's. We've got like the Kylie Cobb and the Kitty Kitty Bang Bang. There's just lots of K's and B's.
Alliteration. You should have been a comic book writer.
I know. And, I am in marketing.
Well, this is
we
true.
like
things that roll.
Like alliteration. And PR, we like to have alliteration. It's one of our, little tools.
Yes, colour and fluff, as I was always taught.
Yes.
Colour
Good quality fluff.
Yes, colour and fluff. How are you, my friend? It's been actually every time we go try to chat, it's usually like an awards night or some kind of big thing like that, and I literally get to see you for like 2 minutes, and then it's just like, bzz, see ya. We don't normally get like a proper chat.
It is a bit of a high buy.
Yeah, it's like that for most.
I'm really great. I'm great now. I mean, it's been a time, hasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, fuck. Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, yeah. Just don't drop the
Probably
C
should have
bomb.
covered that beforehand.
Don't drop the C bomb, and it's all good.
No, I'm all good. I won't do that one.
Yeah,
that's all right.
Most people won't.
I'm really awesome. I'm really awesome. It's been a big 6 months. It's been really challenging. It's been lots of ups and downs, very emotional. But I feel like for me that I'm really coming out of that. For now, anyway. God, who knows what's going to happen? But for now, I can really feel like the energy starting to change, and I'm kind of really excited for what's coming up.
Optimism. I like it. That's what we need.
Yes.
Yeah. It's been one of those days for me. I can tell you, I just feel tested. The same shit never fucking disappears. It's always like, oh, yep, a band pulls out of a bill that you're trying to organise that you already had the artwork done for. It's like, oh, come on. I thought we would just reset this whole thing, but no, same shit, different day. People still do the same thing. I didn't introduce you properly. You are the mastermind behind Kitty Kitty Bang Bang, which I would regard as one up here for PR, music PR, in the country right now, because you guys are doing some pretty cool things, and congrats on the Hussy Hicks stuff, by the way. I've been watching.
Thank you.
I've been watching, and yeah, they're kicking goals.
I mean, it's an amazing body of work. I really do feel like it's a record that we all need to hear right now. It really, moved me through this time. It's full of soul, lots of goodness and soul.
Well, they got a pretty big fan base up here. I know that because they've played up here several times. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean they're a tour de force. Those girls, they have done over 1,000 shows in their career. They just and now selling shows out across Europe, and I think they just had their 16th international tour cancelled, which was. That was a really tough one. It's been a tough journey for them. They were supposed to release the album for Blues Fest, so that's changed.
Wow.
Yeah. That's changed for them. So they just released it last week. So yeah, rolling with the times.
So with all musicians that are deciding just to go ahead and release stuff, hell, like Barefoot's doing the same thing, man. We've got an album and we're gonna have to release it. We've been working 4 years in this damn thing, and we're gonna have to release it in this period of time where we're not going to be able to tour it properly. So from a PR perspective, still a lot of musicians aren't getting what PR is all about, but you would have had to change your plan pretty hardcore. With how long was this sort of working prior to release? Like, is this a 6-month plan like most albums?
Yeah, well, we started working with the Hussy Hicks last year, early last year. We released the first single off the album for Blues Fest 2019.
Right.
and then the second single in July. So I would say, we've been working on, probably was like a 14-month release cycle, which is now stretched to almost 18 months. Yeah, things have definitely changed, and I think it's always, tough for musicians, especially independent musicians.
Yeah.
But now it feels a bit harder than ever to know what the landscape is and whether to release or not to release or wait till you can tour and have shows again.
So what would your emphasis, man, I've only had like half a glass of whiskey and I'm already sort of can't even get my words right. I've got to try to think of where I was going. Yes, totally ruined. So with a standard tour, with a standard release, right, you would be working around a tour, obviously festival slots and all that sort of jazz, and now you have to change the emphasis, got the word right, around, and you'd be focusing more on your streaming networks, anything that's going to be able to get the word out. So how do you adapt that? Do we have to, because a lot of the time the pitch is the album and the tour.
Yeah, look, I always work really hard with artists on finding a story. I really think it's worth going by the mantra that the album release isn't in itself. Of course, there are always exceptions to the rule.
Yep.
And there are bands and artists, and where just the fact that music is big news. But for most independent artists, and especially emerging publishing artists, the fact that you're releasing music, everyone's releasing music, so that's not the story.
Yep.
So we to dig really deep to find what is here, how is it relevant in the world, what's different, unique about it. If the story doesn't naturally exist in the music, in the way you made it, or in you as an artist, we like to work with artists even earlier in the piece when they have demos, and we can talk about ways that they can then build in the story to their release. It can come around to collaboration, how they make the record, where they make the record. I think that's a really key thing for artists to think about, is what is the story behind the music.
It's all in the pitch.
Yeah, well, because people like reading stories.
Yes,
and I think that for media outlets, they're telling stories. They have an audience to engage and entertain, and you're trying to get people to listen to your music. But people buy people, almost, if that makes sense. Like, we buy into an artist and we fall in love or intrigue or interest with the story of the artist first, and go listen to the music.
Yeah. So, like,
I mean, radio is a bit different. I mean, often, obviously radio, we're hearing the song first, but for other forms of media.
I mean, Hussey Hicks got played on the J's, didn't they? Or was it Double J?
Both.
Both. So was it catchy that you pitched to?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Definitely catchy.
And Sarah Howells for Double J.
Yeah, Sarah Howells, and we've also, working on getting it picked up for rotation with ABC and Double J.
Cool.
Not so much Triple J, because they don't really fit into
it's not the demographic.
That demographic or the style of music. So I think that's really important for artists to remember too, is about, who your audience is for your music, and finding out which media outlets are talking to that audience, because then you have a natural synergy.
That's the thing a lot of people don't understand. It's one, I don't like putting all the emphasis on Triple J myself. It's cool to tick that off the box, but it's not the be all and end all if you don't get played on the J's.
It's not. I mean, for some artists, there's no question that there can be a lot of power behind having Triple J play.
No doubt. Yeah.
Massive, I guess, influence when you think about the types of festivals, but you really need to appeal to their audience. And if you don't, you just got to find your audiences.
Yeah.
And talk to them.
I mean, the power of community radio, a lot of people still don't realize it, but you actually can gain a pretty decent following from community radio still.
Definitely, and a lot of presenters at the bigger stations are still following to see who community radio is playing.
Mm.
So it's definitely, I think it's an important part of the ecosystem.
Well, that's why I always pay attention to those AMRAP ERIT charts too. Because this community radio that's actually like controlling that. They're the ones that are playing the spins, not bloody Triple J or anything like that. So yeah, that's a good point. A lot of people don't realize this, and this is all sort of stuff that young artists or artists that have little industry knowledge should actually be picking up. I mean, for someone that's just starting out, I usually give them the advice that they don't really need a PR company if it's just their first release and they only have like 200, 300 followers on Facebook. Would you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. Like, I think there is a time. I mean, getting professional PR services is an investment, and it's one that we are really careful with who we work with, because I won't ever take on a client and. I mean, you can never guarantee results with PR.
No.
That's
it's
the
not
first
advertising,
thing.
mate. It's not advertising. That's what people don't get.
Well, and this is the thing, and I'll give you an example of I was working with an event one time, and we held this awesome media call. We had every TV station, like 3 TV stations. We had the 2 newspapers. We had radio there. We just had everyone there, and they were there for about 3 hours because we had some BMX people doing tricks and with musicians, and it was just all on. Then that afternoon, some kind of local, what we call hard news story happened.
Yep.
Hard news is things like
and just bumped it.
Deaths, police, and it hit the floor.
Yeah.
That story did not get run by anyone.
No.
I mean, how heartbreaking. For us and for our client, as well. So you can't ever guarantee results for starters. But, I really like to work with artists who are ready to reap the benefits from that. I mean, PR is a long-term game, so it can sometimes feel like a bit of a mystery about how it works. It can be really hard to measure results.
Yeah.
A lot of it is about awareness raising and building relationships with media. So in the early days, you're building your relationships. You might not get media coverage with an outlet, say, but you've started building a relationship, and you might not see the fruits of that for 2-3 years or to your second release. It builds over time. So I think definitely in your first releases you can do DIY PR.
Here's the next tricky bit, though, is that they still don't know how to do DIY PR. And I mean, I've had my little rants. I don't know if you've seen them, where I've actually tried to explain how to write a damn press release properly, how to do a press kit properly, all the basics that you would actually require of your clients before you actually sort of begin a campaign. Because a lot of people don't realize that you guys don't do the whole lot. Like, I've never met a PR agency that does, prepares a press kit for you. The artist should actually do it.
Really? You've been working with the wrong people, boy.
Well, you do that?
Yeah, of course.
Well, you're a rare one, mate, because most of them I know don't. Yeah.
Okay, so we write the press release. We prepare an electronic press kit. I mean, in my mind, it's in our best interest to present you
but
in
it's
the
branding
best
for
way
you
possible.
too.
It is. Well, that's what I mean. Like, it's about our relationship with the media. So I want to make sure everything is perfect. So we definitely write the press release. We even rewrite bios.
That's good, because most bios I read are pretty shit, to be honest with you. Even my own.
Me too. And that's why I rewrite them, because it's all part of your communication.
Yeah.
And PR or publicity is about communicating through the media, and you want to make sure your message is consistent.
Yeah.
So honestly, Reese, if you have to write your own press releases and you're paying someone to do publicity, you got to come to Kitty Kitty Bang Bang, baby.
I could tell after this, when we finish, I'll tell you a few stories, but I've actually had to do it before.
Right. Well, look, I think even a band who's doing their own PR, I don't think you need to write a press release, not in the early days, in the beginning. And you obviously run a media outlet, so you might disagree.
Yeah, I do.
But if I can tell you, if I can tell you what I think a band does need to do, and that is to write a really, really good email.
Yeah.
That has all of the key information, which is is it the 4 W's?
Yeah. The who, what,
and the
when,
H,
and
you
where.
know,
Yeah.
who, what, when, where, why.
Yeah.
Why does this media outlet should write about you? What have you got going on? What's the unique story here? Why is it interesting to that person's audience? And then the details. And I do think a press kit is a great idea.
Easy, and it's not that hard to put together.
Well, onepagelink.com is perfect, and it gives you everything you need to include. So you want to make sure you have really good pictures. Like one of my key bits of advice for emerging artists doing PR, DIY PR, or PR full stop, is the photographs.
Mm-hmm.
Invest in your photos. I've designed Blank GC a couple of times, actually, for like 6-month stints to help out. And I've given a brand new artist a half-page story because they had a killer photograph.
Yep.
And then there was an established artist signed to a major label who sent through the shittiest, grainiest photo.
But it's edgy.
And, well, it ended up getting about this much space. Right, and the brand new emerging artist, fresh as, got a half-page story.
Can I ask how many photos of dudes going cross-armed behind a brick wall did you get? Yep, the classic metal pose. Well, actually, the classic metal pose is adapted now to have some kind of purple light and a black background, kind of a smoky kind of thing. I don't know if you've... Yeah. I laugh every time I see it.
Look, I'm really picky with press photos, because I know what needs to go, especially for print. I think online music media is a bit different. Like, there definitely seems to be an aesthetic at the moment, kind of lo-fi, which... For me, as a publicist, I want really crisp, clear images where there's eye contact. You can't have sunglasses on because that's what newspapers are looking for.
Yeah. One of my gripes when I get stuff coming through, and you don't do it because you actually have your choice of low res and high res. But getting just high res photos that are 5 megabytes for an online article, no thank you. It just, no. Just send me it means I have to go through, download it, and go through and resize it. And I know it's a 5-minute job, but still, if I'm putting together an article before I go to work in the morning, which should be, I got half an hour to do something, and basically I'm copying and pasting as much as I can, and downloading and trying to put it up and scheduling. And if I have to go through and bloody download an image that's too high res, it's going to take ages to upload and stuff around too much. It's a pain in the ass. Give us choice.
And this is the thing that artists really need to understand, is that editors are so flogged, and particularly in music media, they're not getting paid to do it. It's usually for love and for supporting the community.
Yep.
And they're getting hundreds, sometimes some media outlets thousands of emails a day, and they're going to choose the stories that have everything they need. So give them everything they need. Make sure you have, a couple of really great photos, high res, low res. Have your music, all your music links. Include like a SoundCloud or some kind of. Don't ever attach your song files.
Oh, fuck that.
To an email. Even if you're going to a radio station, I think give a link to your song files so that they can then, if they're interested, choose to download, but give them something to listen easily first.
Yeah.
I mean, the worst, even as a publicist, the worst is when I have to download a song to be able to listen to it.
Yep. Takes time. Just give us I mean, you got a Google Drive there, but yeah, SoundCloud link or a even Spotify links even piss me off at the moment, because Spotify for desktop, I don't know if you have issues with it, but mine just a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. SoundCloud's the best thing.
So make it as easy as possible. Include all the information that they're going to need. Make sure you're sending an email with a really, really upfront about what the story is and also what you want. I talk to a lot of editors that sometimes get emails and like, but I don't know what you want me to do.
Yeah.
Do you want me just to share the song? Do you want an interview?
Yep.
Do you want to,
I've had 3 this week.
Yeah. So I think, be polite but direct in saying, the kind of outcome that you've got. My other big tip for artists is never do the spray and pray effect. I mean, even as a publicist, I do not do the spray and pray effect. That's where you either like blind copy in 1,000, media contacts and do a generic email that just goes, you spray it out to everyone and then you pray that someone picks it up. And I can promise you that 99% of the time, no one will. You might be lucky, maybe 1 or 2. So my advice is to choose, even if it's 3 media outlets, even if it's 1 print, 1 radio, and 1 online media outlet that is like super relevant to you and you suit their audience. Find the journalist or the DJ or the editor and really make it personal.
And harass them.
And you will have much more success than emailing 1,000.
You actually basically did this weird psychic link thing with me because I was actually going to ask you about the key to relevance and how important that is, but you already just answered that damn question. Yay! Bloody psychic link things. Yeah, a lot of people don't get this, and I have to admit I'm guilty of doing the same thing sometimes. But it's usually if it's just something that I've put up, and I'm just going, and I'm just going to throw some caution to the wind and just chuck something out there. If it was a proper release that I'd spent a lot of money on or anything like that, then yeah, you're correct. It's just the whole. It's also about developing relationships. Okay, so I'm music media. I do PR at the same time, but like yourself, we've developed a relationship. I've developed a relationship with a lot of PR people over the time, mainly because I speak the language, but it's also, you need me, and I need your stuff coming through, so I've got content. So yeah, a lot of people don't realize this. That's why going to somewhere like Big Sound or going to like the QMAs or something like that, and if people see me talking to people, usually it's not musicians, it's PR. And you're frozen on me. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it definitely. Oops. I'm back.
You're back.
I don't think everyone saw this, but when we first connected up, I went like this.
Oh, yeah, no, you didn't, and that freaked me out. Don't do that again. That's not cool. So, pretty handy tips there in the PR world. But basically, if you're ready to, particularly if it's a big single and you've developed your following, so I would say anywhere between sort of like 800 plus people on Facebook, and you've been gigging for quite some time, you have some kind of relevance happening in the scene, then that's when I would be using PR personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what's happening around the release as well, and what the story is.
Yep.
Sometimes I've worked with an artist on their very early in the piece because they had an absolutely banging story, that was going to get them coverage before their time, if that makes sense. We talk about different types of news categories, like there's ones that pull on the heartstrings, there's quirky news stories, there's hard news, which an artist never wants to fall into the hard news category because that usually means something bad has happened, so we don't ever want to fall into that one. So yeah, that's happened before. Yeah, but for the most part, I think there's a lot an artist can do themselves.
How often
taking small actions.
How often would you say no to working with someone, you reckon?
I'm terrible at saying no. It's an art.
Yeah.
It's an art I'm learning because, I can't say yes to everything because our books get full very quickly. But, I mean, we get sent music every day. And I always really do my best to give everything a proper listen and to give feedback And the other thing is like, we give like 110% to all of our clients. And actually, now that I'm working out in the mornings and I'm getting all those endorphins going, I'm giving 130%.
Don't burn out, mate. Don't burn out.
No. I had a nana nap this afternoon, so I'm all good. But I really focus on doing my absolute best work for the clients we're working with now. So I sometimes I'm slow to respond to new artists sending through their music, but we do have to say no, and usually it's because the artist isn't quite ready yet, and I really don't want to take their really hard-earned precious money if it's too soon.
See, the odd times that I actually get asked to do a campaign for someone, I will only take it on if the artist actually agrees to the idea that it's actually a mentorship in a sense. So
that's an interesting idea.
What I actually do is I will do the campaign for them, but I teach them every step of the things that I do so that they can do the next one themselves unless they want to take on to the next level. So I obviously charge for my time because it's not... I mean, it takes a lot of... You would know, it takes a lot of effort and time to put something together. But at the same time, I'm teaching them and making sure they understand the importance. And it's all simple, basic stuff. But I understand that it can be overwhelming for some people if they don't understand how the industry works and how you actually have to approach things and how much stuff you actually have to compile, and having the content there, having the story there. You can't just come up with a song and just go, yeah, it's a new song, it's cool. Sweet. What's the pitch? We need something to sell. Oh, I don't know, I just wrote it on a whim. Well, that's not going to work. You have to try again. You have to come up with something, and they get it eventually. But
I mean, some of the feedback that I've given before is artists who have a body of work to release. This is one of what I think is the key, I suppose. I don't know. I don't want to call it a mistake, but things that emerging artists do too soon, which is to release a body of work before they've built up enough of an audience to consume it. And then this cool music gets lost into the ether forever, and you can never get it back. Yeah. And especially in the modern music, climate where it's a streaming culture, and people are consuming music differently now. So that's one of the things, and the feedback that I've given before is that I think it's too soon to release a body of work. Just take it a single at the time and see what hits. And also artists develop so quickly and grow so much, and sometimes, and I think that's why they're so keen to get it out, because they've created it and they're done with it, and just get it out there. I'm already on the next project.
That's right. But it takes time.
But you need patience. You really need to have patience and to give your work its best chance to take flight, really.
So this is
so some of the other feedback I've given. Sorry.
No, continue.
I was going to say some of the other feedback I've given before is an artist who hasn't developed their live show yet, and like as in performed at all.
Yeah. No.
And releasing music, and even if you have a song that just happens to absolutely take has happened. Of course, there's always exceptions to every rule, but you want to make sure you can back that up with performance.
Yeah, I mean, imagine sort of releasing something and it becomes viral, and then going out on stage and realizing you actually have extreme stage fright because all you've done is just bedroom performances and that sort of stuff. And I actually have seen this happen before, where someone gained popularity, and I went, "Oh, okay, how many shows you racked up?" I have never played live before. He's like, "Okay, how are you going to approach this?" Yeah, it's interesting. They eventually sort themselves out, but
yeah, and that's sometimes the feedback where it's too soon.
It's a learning curve.
Yeah, to get PR, because once you start raising that awareness and start to get momentum and build momentum, which PR does give you or can give you, you really got to have the goods to back it up.
Cool. All right. I think we've covered a whole heap of stuff in half an hour. You know, it's half an hour already talking about PR.
We're just smashing it
I
out,
know.
baby.
What I want to talk about is the Gold Coast Music Awards, because it was a really interesting time for you guys to do it this year.
Whew, it was.
I still haven't done my point awards, and I've been threatening to do it, and I've got it ready to go. I've actually got, because you wouldn't know that I actually previously used to do the point awards, but it was used to be New Year's Day. I used to do them. I haven't done them since 2015. I take the piss out of everyone. Mine's not serious. You don't win anything. My categories are the stupidest categories. But at the same time,
like a wooden spoon.
No, like best teeth and that sort of shit. But at the same time though, yeah, I'll give a shout out to Hack Austin.
That would be a great one to put in your bio.
Yeah, well, he's actually used it. He's used it, and he's down in Melbourne now, and I love the dude, Hack Austin, mate.
I would totally use that. That would be hilarious.
But it's more to do with acknowledgement of the actual artists in the industry, and there is a lot in the Sunshine Coast, and a lot of people sort of just forget how many working musicians there actually are on the Sunshine Coast.
There is some very exciting music coming out of the Sunshine Coast.
Yep. You're working with an ex-Sunshine Coast artist right now that's now Gold Coast artist. We've got a couple coming up, actually. You know, I recommend people as well to you, so just so you know, if they come... I do, yeah.
Legend.
Depends on the type of music and actually in the angle, though.
Fair enough.
Well, I wouldn't send a metal band your way.
No,
because I have someone else for that, and I would.
That's right.
Yes, and you would know him very well.
Yeah, for sure. Pricey,
Mr. Price. He does his great job in that industry. But there are particularly if it's a female performer, I usually send them your way because I actually like the idea that. The driving force. I mean, you would be up there. I mean, you and was it Cindy Vogels as well? And that festival that you did, was it late last year? Was it this year? Yeah.
Girls.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
banging event, that one. Great concept.
Very excellent concept, and we have some extremely talented female artists. I shouldn't just call them females; they're just artists, but they just happen to be with the XX gender chromosome thing. But I usually send them. I usually recommend
we'll get there. We will get there eventually. We're not there yet. You know, we still need to be raising awareness and talking about it in that way because you know things aren't as they need to be just yet. We've still got a way to go.
Yeah, we'll get to something about that in a little bit, but more about the Gold Coast Music Awards. Back to that, because you had to adapt hardcore very, very quickly.
It was hardcore. It was a real challenge because obviously Friday the 13th happened and everything was cancelled. With gatherings. So not only as all of the team's individual businesses did we, like for me personally, Kitty Bang Bang, we lost 85% of our 6 months work in 2 hours. We just had all of our international tours and the festivals. It was just phone call after phone call after phone call.
That's extreme.
It was real. It was a shock.
Yeah.
It was a shock. So then off the back of that, having to look at the Gold Coast Music Awards and be like, whoa, what the fuck are we going to do? Is it going to happen? Do we cancel? We also had partners, Surfers Paradise Alliance, with the Surfers Paradise Live Festival. Mm-hmm. They're a big partner of ours, and we, use their stage and everything like that. So we had to wait to see what was happening with that festival. And it's hard to remember now, but things were changing so quickly. Like, we would make a plan, like, right, okay, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah, and then a new condition would come in that you couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had to forget every time, to every iteration, because the time frames were so short.
Yeah.
We had to be like, right, plan B. And then we'd all go away and like full on commit to making plan B happen. And then 24, 48 hours later, it's like, oh shit, it's changed again. Okay, all right, come back to the table. Now, meanwhile, in the background, as well as like dealing with the effect to our own businesses, we were also suddenly homeschooling children.
Yeah. See, I'm lucky I don't have to do that anymore.
So,
But yeah.
yeah. So the Gold Coast Music Awards is a team of like some kick-ass women, and we all have children, and we all have our own businesses that we run as well. So we're all got children at home. We're trying to, adapt and make these awards work, and we did it. I mean, we were really proud of what we were able to put together in the end. But I tell you, it was, it was full on.
Yeah, I can imagine the stress load.
Dig deep.
Yeah, the stress load. Like, I actually enjoyed watching at the end, the little clips at the end there that you did.
Yeah.
Basically,
gotta have a laugh.
We were like, and you're like, some of you are in towels and just drinking wine, just going, yeah, we're done, right? Whew. I completely understand where that comes from.
Yeah, I
don't
think
envy it.
It was about a month after. I mean, look, when you're in crisis mode, crisis management, you just do what needs to be done. And that was what was so incredible about working with that team, is that everyone comes together, super focused, productive, all about making a plan and then making it happen. Everyone would go away and do their parts, and you're just getting it done. And then about a month later, we had a debrief, and I got really teary and emotional, and realized it was in that moment that I was like, wow, actually, that was really stressful.
It all poured
pulling
out.
that off under all those circumstances.
Yeah.
And I really felt that, even though I forgot.
I mean, you're lucky you still had all the sort of the advertisers paying attention to the sponsors of the actual event. I mean, you still had Hoto involved as well, even though you couldn't use them. Wasn't it going to be at the Home of the Arts? Was that where it's going to be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that? Sorry, no, we usually hold it on the beachfront at Surfers Paradise.
Ah, okay. I've never done it before. So.
Yeah. Oh my God, you've never been?
Well, it's Gold Coast. It's like 2.5 hours away, man.
But it is like the event. It was spectacular. Big, massive beachfront stage, marquee, and the Gold Coast. They're pretty chilled out bunch. Gets pretty loose.
I can imagine.
So it's a really fun event to go to. But yeah, I think that's also one of the reasons that we really committed to moving forward, because at that late stage, we'd already spent a lot of the sponsor money.
Yeah.
In getting to the point we'd got to. So we really needed to honour our sponsors and keep them on board so that the awards could happen again.
Could you actually evaluate the actual response you got from it, and what was the actual traffic flow that you got from the hits and everything? Could you actually figure all that out?
Yeah. I mean, well, and this is the beauty of doing an online thing. I mean, you could never have planned it. I mean, nothing is going to be the same as a live event and connecting with people in real life.
Yeah.
But we got such a huge national reach that we just usually wouldn't be able to get. So the artists that got to play on the video, the artists that were nominated and won awards, they got in front of the eyes and ears of so much more of the Australian music industry than they would have otherwise, just because we held it online.
Yeah.
So I think actually it was really beneficial to Gold Coast music and the Gold Coast artists. We were really stoked. And of course, because you're doing it online, you get all the stats. How many people viewed it, how long they viewed it for, what kind of people were watching. And, we had a whole bunch of other strategies in place to be able to invite people to come and watch.
So would you actually take on a live streaming thing next year?
Oh, I think the dream is real life.
Yeah, but would you live stream at the same time?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I don't think we'd got that far as to think about that yet. I think we're still getting over last year.
Yeah. Well, just because you said that it had such a wide reach, and obviously people from Western Australia wouldn't obviously be able to get to the Gold Coast, or people from Melbourne a lot of the time wouldn't be able to do it. So
thank you for that idea. I'll make sure I credit you with that in the meeting. I think that's a really fabulous idea. I mean, what is really an interesting thing around this time is it was a very unique time. So we actually got lots of fantastic media support and I think industry support because COVID-19 had just happened.
Yeah.
And it was really a time of shock and of people, I really implored people to support and, save the awards because that's kind of what we were doing. So who knows if you'd get the same response again next time, but definitely.
Well, surely you would.
An idea.
If your response nationwide was actually a lot more than what you expected, one would assume that people would be watching, and particularly like Gold Coast is. I mean, I hate saying it, but you're churning out some pretty good artists at the moment, and Sunshine Coast this isn't just gone. Hello, over here. We still got some cool things happening too, but I think all eyes would be on something like the Gold Coast Music Awards next year. So a live streaming thing would be maybe something to consider. Maybe so
definitely that is up there on the list. You legend. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, like streaming technology gets a little bit more advanced by the time like everyone was adapting to Zoom and all that sort of stuff and doing online, and hopefully everything's been adapted a bit more so we could utilize it so there's no latency and no crap, and it'd be quite an immersive experience that we can watch in our pajamas at home if we can't make it to the Gold Coast and get glammed up.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
I'll be on the red carpet.
Yeah,
for sure.
Of course you would.
Yeah, and I'll talk to you while you're on your lounge.
I might make the trip down. You never know. So the last thing, I'm going to get a little bit serious now. It's only been happening, like brought to our attention. Sorry, it's been happening for a little too long. Brought to our attention in the last 2 weeks, I would say, particularly with a certain artist. They got a lot of respect for. The whole Me Too movement has reached and starting to gain momentum again in Australian music. I think it had a little bit when the main Me Too movement sort of happened in America, but it's been brought to light again, and it's well overdue to be called out, I have to say. And I don't, maybe because I'm a male, I don't see a lot of this sort of stuff happening. Maybe because honestly, I don't know. I mean, as a musician on stage, if I see any of this crap happening in front of me, we call it out. But what's happened with that particular artist, I don't know if I can. Do you think I can mention who this artist is? Do you think she would?
I think so. Yeah, look, I think that's public.
Yeah.
I think you have to be careful around, I guess, naming the
perpetrator.
The perpetrator, that's the word.
No, I wouldn't do that.
For legal reasons.
Yeah.
Which, as someone who, as a woman, and watching these, revelations come out, one of the hardest things was like, well, who is this person? Can you tell us who it is?
Yep.
Like, for me, I'm like, I've recommended photographers, we recommend producers, like we send artists to people all the time, and I was horrified about, like, do I know this person?
That's
Have
right.
I recommended them? But there's a lot of legalities around it, and people need to protect themselves first.
Yeah, it's hard to tiptoe around it, but like, okay, so Jaguar Jones, so Dina Lynch, incredible artist. She was one of the artists for the Space Girls, and she took out, how many did she take out? She took out 2 QMAs this year, or was it just one? I know,
I'm not sure.
But she performed and she killed it, and she's an incredible artist. And I know that she has mentioned it or made reference to it in the past, but yeah, this to light in the last 2 weeks on what she put on her social medias. I was lost for words and shocked at the same time that this shit still is happening, and I saw what came out about the particular agency, and I didn't know anything about this. I don't know if you knew about it at the time, but apparently it was brought up around Big Sound. People knew about it back then too.
Look, I was aware of whisperings, if that makes sense, and I think that's sometimes what a lot happens around it all. But it's definitely really time for Australia to have its Me Too movement in the music industry. So it's what at the same time as being horrifying to hear and know that these kind of things are happening and have been happening forever. We think we've come so far as a society, and then to read some of the accounts of the women and what happened to them in while they were just going about trying to build their career and express themselves through their music is really quite shocking, and it's time's up.
So
We've got to change it.
It could be my naivety, but like a lot of the female artists that I know, I would assume were way stronger than that and would have told particular people just to fuck off, basically.
Well, I think it's a very difficult thing when we're talking about power dynamics. And you can have, women are conditioned from a very young age, from the day dot, about how we should and shouldn't be, and that we should be nice, we should be polite, we should be this, we should be that. And that's a big part of what needs to change, generation to generation, is about how we're raising women and how we're raising men. So I think even the strongest person can be in that situation and be so shocked that it's even happening and not know how to deal with it, especially when you're conditioned to be polite and nice. And also, I don't think we can underestimate what some of the perpetrators of these kind of acts, the psychology and the gaslighting and the kind of tactics they use to intimidate and manipulate their victims.
Yeah, it's an industry that was right for it. I mean, I can imagine. I don't even want to imagine what it was like in the 80s or 90s. To be honest with you, I think the stories that could have been told back then could have been a bit, too far beyond bedtime talking. So where do you think? I mean, as a prominent sort of PR person who represents a lot of incredible female artists, where do we go from here?
Well, I think we need to make it a really safe space for victims to come forward, to talk about their experiences, to be believed, because that is one of actually the biggest issues still to this day, is being believed. When you share your story and getting the right support around it. Definitely having the conversation, like it's absolutely brilliant that you're having this conversation right now, because that's about bringing it into the general conscious, and that it's something that we need to be able to talk about and address so that we can change it. And that's men and women. It's going to take everybody to really make the change that needs to happen.
Let's hope this shit sort of sorts it out. I don't see it happening very, very quickly. It's going to be a long process, to be honest with you. I'm sorry to end this interview on a sort of like a more serious note, because we're on a fucking pisser of a time all the way through this. But it was something that I would like. I wanted to talk particularly to you about. And yeah, it does need more.
Look, it's really, really important. It does. And I think that's why these topics sometimes don't get spoken about, because they're hard to talk about. It's hard to know what the right thing to say is and the right thing to do, but I think the most important part is that you're talking about it. And that's definitely part of the solution, is bringing it into the awareness. So supporting the victims, making it safe for people to talk about their experience, for action and change to happen, for consequences outed, I suppose you could say, and to really be creating a culture where everyone can be safe and thrive, no matter what their gender, sexual orientation, cultural background is. It needs to be safe for everybody.
Music is music, mate. I just want to see a safe environment for people, and for people, particularly men in the industry, if they're seeing some shit happening, call it out. It's not that hard, really.
Yeah, and it's even around it's anything from, like, they talk about the different levels of, like you've got some what seem like benign comments that might happen in general conversation.
Yeah.
That need to be called out at that point. So I think we all need to be braver in calling things out, men and women, when they happen on the spot, and really being good allies. No matter what we're talking about, we all need to be good allies and educate ourselves and ask questions, and not be afraid, or to have the courage, I suppose, because it's okay to be scared shitless to ask someone about something you know nothing about, and have the courage to ask the questions and ask how you can support and be there and make change.
Kylie Cobb, this has been brilliant. And you know what?
Thank you so much for having me.
We've smashed out nearly 50 minutes here. You actually sort of gone into one of the longer ones. So there you go.
Well, it was a pleasure.
Always
Anytime,
awesome.
my friend.
I will have a quick chat to you after this, just a debrief in a PR term. I'll link Kitty Kitty Bang Bang in below as well. So let's get some more people sort of interested in what they think they should be doing in PR, even if you just have a chat with them. I know there's some artists in there sort of at that mid-level, they're ready to go, so I'll do all that for you. Always.
And look,
awesome.
I've also got lots of articles, and we'll be bringing out, make sure you give us a follow on socials, because we're going to bring out like some tips and, some resources to help emerging artists do PR and marketing themselves.
There you go. Easy as.
Yeah.
You're brilliant, mate. Thank you very much.
You are too. Thanks so much.
All good. I'll have a chat to you after this. Everyone else, good night. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you like this episode and previous ones in the series and you have not yet subscribed, I'm going to do the thing. Yep. Press that subscribe button and ring the bell, and you'll be notified whenever we have fresh new podcasts coming through. Thank you for supporting local music, live music, Australian music, all types of music. Cheers, guys.